Hi fam, welcome back to my channel. This is Maria J, and today's video is going to be my top palettes for 2021. Top 15 to be exact. This took a minute. This took a minute to really decide on what eyeshadow palettes I want to feature in this video. Admittedly, I did purchase quite a number of palettes towards the earlier part of the year, and I still haven't gone through all of them. So I'm basing my top 15 at the moment on the products that I've actually used, products that I used in 2021. They didn't all necessarily come out in 2021, but these are products that I used in 2021. And I'm basing my list on usability, diversity in terms of shade range, how many looks can I create with it, and also the palettes that immediately pop to mind when I'm looking for really high performing quality shadows. So if that sounds interesting to you, then definitely get a drink, girl, get some snacks, because this might be a long one, because you know how I do. I love eyeshadow palettes, so any reason to talk about eyeshadow palettes, count me in. So let's jump in. Before we start, I do want to say that I have a tutorial of this look. It's more or less a review of one of the eyeshadow palettes that made its way into the collection. It is an honorable mention, but whatever. So if you are interested, I will link that video. So I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going to tell, this is in no particular order, because it's difficult for me to rank eyeshadow palettes because I wear different color stories for different reasons, for different occasions. So unless I base it on performance, but then there's some really high performing eyeshadow palettes that don't have a lot of colors in them. So it gets really complicated, and I really don't want to do that. I just want to focus in on 15 eyeshadow palettes that I highly recommend if you're looking to add a few more into your collection. So the first one I want to talk about is a big eyeshadow palette, and I used this a couple of times in 2021. And this is the Plouise. It is not Plouise is cancelled. It is the nude edition one. So this is the packaging. I do have a few looks using this palette, so definitely check those out. But it is quite a chunky packaging. So in terms of packaging, it isn't my favorite, but in terms of the color story, in terms of the amount of shades that you get in this particular palette, and also in terms of the quality of the eyeshadows, I feel like this is a really, really good nude, neutral based eyeshadow palette with some really dark green colors. Like these are a little bit green. You've got some really beautiful browns. You've got some burgundy, purple type of shades. You've got orange. You've got yellow. You've got some brown tones in here that I fully appreciate. I am going to swatch one or two eyeshadows that really, really bring joy to me. So this one called Published is probably one that I used quite a bit in a few videos. So you can see how well the light catches that one. It's so beautiful. We've also got the shade called Disclosure, which is a gorgeous shade. And we've got, oh yeah, I used Exclusive. Exclusive is this white shade, but then when it hits the light, it looks like it looks like it's got bits of silver in it. And then this shade called Headlines is also very, very gorgeous as well. So there. I do feel like P. Louise eyeshadows are really, really good performing shades. I feel like the quality of her shades, the quality of her mattes, they blend really, really well. And the shimmers are absolutely gorgeous. Great for everyday use. Great for, you know, if you want to bring the attention to the eyes, to bring that sparkle in. I feel like she makes really, really good eyeshadow palettes. And this one particularly is one of my favorites from her because, again, it is a nude, which means you can do so much more with nudes. You could pop a color underneath your lower lash line to give it a little bit more interest. But just generally, a nude makeup look goes with any occasion, literally any occasion. Hence why I really love my neutral eyeshadow palette. So this one definitely also has a black. And you know how I am with eyeshadow palettes that have a black. I feel like it's necessary in a lot of the neutral nude palettes, just to allow different levels of people to use it. If they're darker skin tones and they want a little bit more depth in their eyeshadow, they can always dip into a black. And for myself, I love a good smoky eye, so a black in an eyeshadow palette is always super appreciated. So this one definitely had to rank on the list. The next eyeshadow palette I want to talk about, I do have a review of this one on my YouTube channel, and this is the VIII Cosmetics Paris Passion in Paris palette. This is one of the destination eyeshadow palettes. I feel like the eyeshadow palettes that come in this style and shape of palette from VIII Cosmetics have really good formulation, really good performance. Some of my favorites include avocado, the avocado toast, include the blueberry palette. The blueberry palette is an amazing eyeshadow palette. Beautiful in Barcelona is also a really good one. But this one particularly, I absolutely love. When you open a palette, the color story doesn't scream like, oh my goodness. But honestly, when you use this palette and when you swatch it, the colors are gorgeous. They work really nicely together. It's a beautiful color story, very interesting. And those shimmer shadows really pack a punch. So I'm gonna swatch a few. Pantheon is gorgeous. Let's swatch these two together. You can see how different they are, but how well they just pick up the light. It's absolutely gorgeous. This one called Eiffel Tower is a beautiful neutral champagne type of color. And then this one is so interesting. To me, it looks like a mix between purple and gold, or purple and champagne, and that's this color. So those are just some shimmers that I've swatched from this palette. The mattes as well perform really well. The color story generally is just what blows me away. I absolutely love it, and I love the performance of it. Plus, it's so inexpensive. I can't wait for more of these destination palettes from VIII Cosmetics, because I do feel like they are really good high performance eyeshadow palettes. Definitely check this one out if you're on the hunt for an interesting color story like this. You'll love this one, trust me. Check out my review. I did a whole tutorial, I did swatches, I did all of that good stuff, so definitely check that one out. Now, the third eyeshadow palette I want to talk about is another neutral palette. I feel like I have quite a number of neutrals in this whole collection in front of me, but you know this one. So the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette, this definitely had to feature. I wanted to bring in the Jaclyn palette, but I talk about that palette way too much, so I just had to slow my roll. But it is a really good one if you are looking for you know, a really nice all-rounded eyeshadow palette that works for all skin tones. And I mean all the shades work for all skin tones. Definitely check out that one, most especially brown and dark skin tones. You will love that palette. But the one that I want to talk about in this video is the Soft Glam palette. Now, I added this into the mix because I feel like the color story of this palette is easy going, work appropriate, throw it on, forget about it, walk out the door. You've also got an essential black, which helps to deepen shades, helps to create a little bit of smokiness, a little bit of interest. You've also got some really beautiful shimmer shadows that work really well with the eyeshadow palette. It is a very cohesive, neutral based eyeshadow palette with pops of interesting color. So I'm just gonna swatch some of the shimmer shadows that I love to use the most. They are absolutely gorgeous and they perform so well. And I feel like all skin tones appreciate and love this palette. Like, that gold is absolutely gorgeous. So this definitely has to rank. If you're looking for an easy breezy eyeshadow palette, you can definitely check this one. This is more on the expensive side of things, although I believe these ABH palettes are on sale either on ABH UK or on Beauty Bay. However, they generally retail around £43, which I appreciate can be a little bit pricey. And I also appreciate that not all of these neutral colors work on darker skin tones. I know they work on me, a slightly darker, and even definitely lighter, but like on really, really deep skin tones, I know there's some shades in here that don't work. So if you've got really, really deep skin tone and you're looking for a really good neutral nude eyeshadow palette, I've got one for you. So this is where my honorable mention comes in. I mean, what is one of these videos without an honorable mention? So I've got one for you. Alright, definitely check out the Rebellious Nudes from Colored Raine. This palette snuck its way into 2021. I literally got this in December, and it's the palette that I've got on my eyes. Oh yeah. It's the only eyeshadow palette I've got on my eyes. It's an absolutely gorgeous neutral eyeshadow palette, but what it's got is depth. You've got way more depth in those brown shades. You've got way more depth in those really dark, neutral, nude shades. You know, like this has a little bit of red in it, which creates some really warm brown looks, and the foil and duochrome shadows at the top as well are really, really interesting. I will link this video up in the cards and also in the description box for you to check out, because I do have swatches, I do have this whole look on there. But if you've got deeper skin tone and you're looking for an easy breezy neutral nude eyeshadow palette, definitely check out this one. Any skin tone can wear this, but I do appreciate that we probably have the luxury of more neutral shadows than really, really dark skin tones. So definitely check this one out. This is clearly one of my favorites so far because this look is a banger. Alright, so the fourth eyeshadow palette I want to talk about is the Beauty Bay Fiery 2.0 palette. Now, if you watched my declutter and collection video talking about my eyeshadow palettes, you'd have seen me talk about this palette, and it left a really good, lasting impression on me when I used this palette. I feel like this color story is absolutely gorgeous. Such a big palette. You get so many shades. You've got neutrals, yellows, pinks, reds in there. So diverse, so beautiful, so effortless as well. I feel like the Beauty Bay formula is really, really good. Pigmentation on point, and the quality of the shadows compared to the price that you pay, you're definitely getting a lot for your money. This is such an interesting color story. I do have a look and review using this on my YouTube channel. I kind of wish that I created way more looks using this palette, but it's definitely one that I'm going to be reaching for this year because it's just everything. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it definitely had to rank as one of my top palettes for 2021. Like, why wouldn't it? Look at it. It's so stinking beautiful. So let me swatch some of my favorite shadows that just jump out at me, just so that you can appreciate how gorgeous. Wow. Even I forgot how beautiful that is. Like, look at these shadows. Look at that pink. And then look at the gold yellow. And then this one, I mixed in a little bit of brown. Apologies, that's me. But it's a beautiful champagne gold color. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think it speaks for itself. You can definitely pick these up. Beauty Bay often go on sale when it comes to their eyeshadow palettes. So if you haven't checked that one, I highly, highly recommend it. 42 colors, gorgeousness, so many looks you can create, pigmentation on point, shadows are buttery, value for money. Okay, so the fifth eyeshadow palette I want to talk about is one that I didn't expect to fall back in love with. And this is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe Dark Magic palette. Now, I already bought the Vault when it came out, and I had the worst experience ever. None of the shadows were working. I was so disappointed in that collection that I parked it for a long time. I gave it to my sister and I refused to buy it. But then I heard in the grapevine that the collection itself was secretly reformulated, I guess. And so I tempted fate and I repurchased this one, including the purple color story. And this is the color story of the palette. Now, I've used this in accompanying looks. I haven't used it on its own, but I have used it in accompanying looks, and I can say that it definitely performed a lot differently than my first impression. I've always loved this color story. It's always been a beautiful grunge type of color story that I'm really, really drawn to. Green is one of my favorite eyeshadow colors to use, and this clearly has all the green that I could want in the grungy, grungy color story that I could want. And I've been enjoying using this palette. I will say that I haven't used the shimmer shadows as much, but definitely the mattes are very, very creamy, very, very pigmented. They perform really, really well as beautiful blending shades, and I have no problems, no qualms, no complaints with it. That is a matte shade that I swatched, and you see how beautiful it swatches. That's a shimmer, that's a shimmer, and they're gorgeous. You're not gonna get the high shine quality that you're looking for in the shimmer shadows, but I'm okay with that. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I don't mind the standard shimmer shadows. I do like a little bit of foil, but the standard shimmer shadows are gorgeous as well. And this one has some really, really beautiful shimmers that work really well with the matte colors. So I am pleasantly surprised that I fell back in love with this palette. But then again, the color story is very much me. I think the first collection was just a performance issue, but this one works really, really well. So if you're looking for accompanying deeper, greens, blues, like really grungy colors, I definitely recommend this one. I feel like Morphe and Jaclyn did a good job with this one. I really, really love the color story and I'm really drawn to it. When I'm thinking about green makeup looks to use or shadows to use, this one always jumps to mind. Like literally, it lives rent free in my head. So definitely it had to make its way to the list. Now the sixth palette is another Morphe palette, and I do have a tutorial and review of this palette, and this is the Morphe Desert Bouquet 35D palette. And when I open it, it's not gonna be like, it's not gonna scream unique. Like you do have neutrals. Like I love the roles. Let's start with that. I do love the columns. I love the columns. You've got greens, you've got yellow, orange, brown. I'm liking what they're doing. Cool tone brown, pinks, darker berries. You've got, like, I do love the columns. I love the idea of that. And I do love the color story. And even when you look at it roll by roll, you can see that it's light and then it's getting darker. So I quite like that from this palette. But what I love the most is the look that I created using this palette. It's one that has also lived rent free in my head because I definitely want to play with this palette more. I feel like the color story screams autumn. It screams fall weather, cold, grunge, dark colors, very sexy. I do feel like it could be a really good Valentine's Day like palette, especially on this side. You could create some really beautiful Valentine's Day looks. But I do love the colors in this palette. I love the shimmer shadows that I used. I love the color story. I love that they incorporated one or two, like what they call them, are they foils or they're topper type of shadows. So this one to me performs more like a topper. You can see how it glistens and shines, and then it looks like it doesn't really pack a punch, but then on the lid that's how it shines. And then this is the one that I used in the look, which is absolutely gorgeous. There's some other beautiful shadows in here, like this one as well performs like a topper type of shade, which is stunning. And then this is the green one as well, which looks like that. So there's some really, really beautiful performing shimmer shadows. The mattes from Morphe as well are really, really good. I do get along with Morphe matte shadows, with Morphe shadows generally. I feel like the quality of their shadows is really, really good. Very easy to blend, very pigmented. They work really well. I don't know what people say when they say that they hate the Morphe formula. I don't have any problem. It works with all the bases that I have, with concealer, with Plouise base, whatever base I use, Morphe palettes work. I haven't had one that I hated. There's some color stories that don't particularly sing well to me, but then in terms of the quality of their shadows, only maybe the smaller 9 pan ones I've had more issues with than the bigger ones. But just generally, Morphe eyeshadow palettes work really well for me. And this one screams, get me. Like, look at this color. Look at this. Imagine this color on a black base. I rest my case. Alright, so the 7th eyeshadow palette is another neutral. I know, wishy, but you know this palette had to make its way to the list. And this is a Natasha Denona bronze palette. Like, I've talked about this. Natasha's ears are probably burning because I've talked about this palette so many times on my channel that I feel like I need to put an embargo on talking about this palette. But how can you not? How can you not talk about this palette? This is a beautiful neutral palette. There are some things I would change, aka I would add a few more mattes, but I'm not hating on it. I'm not hating on it because it's gorgeous. The shimmer shadows are what makes this eyeshadow palette amazing. And the fact that there is no black and I'm okay with that, that just makes it even more special. This shade is a really, really dark brown, but on the lid, it kind of looks like a black, but more of a softer black. I'm actually going to swatch it. And it has a really, really different formula. It swatches feeling wet and creamy, but then it's a matte shade at the end of the day when you blend it in. So the texture of it feels really wet, but then it just works really well like a matte shade. So those are some shimmers alongside that color that is a black to me, but it's a dark brown really. And one more gold shadow. Natasha Denona makes really, really good eyeshadow formula generally. I do have a lot of her midi pan palettes like this, and they work really well. I love this palette simply for the simplicity and the quality of shimmers that you get and the amount of looks that you can create using this palette. I am a huge fan of how easy this palette is to use. Anyone can use it. You can use any base with it. It's easygoing, super friendly eyeshadow palette that I 100% recommend. I mean, look at my fingers. That is just a gorgeous, gorgeous neutral eyeshadow palette, and I will continue to talk about how amazing this palette is until you get your fingers in there. Go swatch it if you can, or purchase. I don't care. You're gonna love it. Honestly, I promise you, you're gonna love it. So my 8th and 9th eyeshadow palette are around the same color story, but I wanted to feature both of them for two different reasons. And my 8th palette is the Rose Metal Lois Cosmetics eyeshadow palette. Now this is, I say it all the time, this is the only rose gold eyeshadow palette of this quality, okay, of this color story in my collection as a standalone palette. You've got an essential black, you've got those beautiful rose gold shades. This is by far my favorite shimmer shadow in this palette. You clearly see it's the one with a dipper's pan. You've got beautiful dark red, you've got neutral shadows, some beautiful pinks, a brown. It's such a diverse eyeshadow palette. You can create so many looks using this, and it's such an understated palette, and it's because it's an indie brand. Oh, not enough people talk about this eyeshadow palette. Not enough people talk about the brand. Generally, they're a UK based brand, but honestly, I tell you something, this eyeshadow palette deserves several awards. It's creamy, it's buttery. I've had this palette for a good number of years now, and it still performs amazingly. It still performs so well, still creamy, still very pigmented. Look at the shine of those shimmer shadows. The matte shadows as well perform really nicely. They blend really well. They pack a punch. They're easy to use. A little bit goes a long way because the pigmentation is 100%. I do feel like indie brands need to be respected. Like, there's a lot of stuff that comes out of indie brands, a lot of great ideas, beautiful palettes, beautiful pigmentation, and I feel like more people need to use indie brand palettes, especially when the performance is amazing. Like, the quality of the eyeshadow palette is 100%. And that brings me on to the ninth eyeshadow palette, because that is also a pinky rose gold eyeshadow palette, but I love it for other reasons. This one is easy for any look, any occasion, easy for you to grab and go. And the quality of the shadows, compared to the amount you pay, you're getting like value. Honestly, you're getting value. Bang for your buck. Super affordable. Definitely check it out. Lois Cosmetics, I'm gonna break it. Lois Cosmetics Rose Metal Eyeshadow Palette. The ninth eyeshadow palette definitely has to be a Pat McGrath palette. This is the only Pat McGrath palette in my top palettes for 2021. And this is the Mothership. Which one? I keep saying which one is this one. This is the Mothership 8 Divine Rose 2 palette. I got it in the special limited edition rose gold packaging. And this is what this one looks like. Now, this with the Rose Metals palette, chef's kiss if you use the two of them. However, what the rose gold, what the rose metal palette doesn't have is the duochrome and multichrome shadows that the Pat McGrath has, and what the Lewis palette has that the Pat McGrath palette doesn't have, the mattes. Like, Pat McGrath doesn't really have mattes in her palettes. She has more shimmers, more duochrome shadows, excuse me, than mattes. You've only got 3 mattes in this palette, which kind of limits the usability in my opinion. But the mattes in this palette are very clever. They're shadows that work really well with the shimmer, with the duochrome shadows. In here, some of my favorite duochromes, and I will swatch just one of the standard shimmers. So this is a standard shimmer, and then these are some of the multichrome and duochrome shadows. So this one looks purple to you, but to me it's green. You can kind of see it as I turn my hand. It's very green to me, and that's a gold, and that's just a standard shimmer. So there are a lot of interesting colors from the Pat McGrath palette. I feel like shimmers, duochromes, multichromes, that is Pat McGrath's strong suit. The mattes in the Lois Cosmetics palette really work hand in hand with this palette. So the two of them together would make a dream couple. But I love two of them for different reasons. This one just brings a lot of mystery, a lot of what is that? What color is that? You know, a lot of intrigue, a lot of interest to my makeup look, and the quality of the shadows is amazing. So that is number 9. Okay, number 10 is another neutral palette, but I do want to say the last neutral is another neutral palette. And this one had to feature because I've talked about this palette so many times on my other social media platforms, especially TikTok, as one of my like top recommended neutral eyeshadow palettes. As I said, neutral eyeshadow palettes are just easy breezy lemon squeezy, especially if you work, you know, long hours, or if you go to work 9 to 5, you kind of want easy eyeshadow palettes. I get it. I'm right there with you. I feel the same way. With color, I feel like there's a little bit more effort that I need to put in. But with a neutral palette, it's just grab and go type of shadows, and I appreciate that, especially when the quality matches the intention. And the one I'm talking about is the Morphe Madison Bear eyeshadow palette. I feel like this palette, when it came out, it didn't get enough love. Personally, don't feel like it got enough love. And because the color story itself kind of just looks like a boring neutral eyeshadow palette, but I promise you the pigmentation of this palette, the quality of those shadows is amazing. This is a really easy, simple, everyday eyeshadow palette that you can use and forget about it. honestly. Plus, you've got an all essential black that would just bring in those smoky colors if you're looking to do smoky looks. So let me swatch some of my favorite shimmers that I've used in this palette, just so that you can see what I am talking about. Like, there's some really beautiful high shine shimmer shadows, and then there's some standard shimmer shadows. And like, look at this one, beautiful high shine, and then you've got more standard ones like this. So there's so many looks you can do with this palette. The mattes as well. I feel like this quality of Morphe shadows even outweighs their standard quality. The quality in this palette, the energy in this palette needs to be in all the Morphe eyeshadow palettes, to be honest, because as I said, I get along with Morphe palettes, but this one outperformed all of them put together. If you're able to get your hands on this, I fully recommend it. I think places like Pretty Little Things, ASOS, and the rest of them probably have it on sale. If I can find links to all of these eyeshadow palettes, I will link them in the description box, because honestly, this palette I highly recommend. Definitely get your hands on it if you can. It blends really well. The colors work really well together. You get a lot of depth, a lot of complexity in this one. It's gorgeous. Pigmentation is 100%, and I absolutely love it. I highly recommend it. It's a good neutral eyeshadow palette. Okay, so the next eyeshadow palette also came out in 2021. It was part of the holiday collection for Beauty Bay, and this is the Age of Opulence eyeshadow palette. I wanted to rank the Book of Magic palette, but you can't get your hands on that, and to me this is the next best thing. This for me is a combination of their other eyeshadow palettes. Personally, that's what I think. It's a beautiful color story, and we know that Beauty Bay makes really beautiful pigmented eyeshadow palettes. So the pigmentation is not an issue. The quality of the shadows is amazing. Those shimmer shadows, girl, they are gorgeous. I absolutely love this color story because you can create neutral looks with this. You can create blue, you can create purple, you can create so many complex looks with this palette. I really love a palette that gives you way more for your money. These are inexpensive palettes from Beauty Bay. Some of the favorites are come in this shape of palette, and I'm gonna swatch some that jump out to me, because honestly I've only used this palette twice, but it keeps coming to mind every time I'm looking for an eyeshadow palette to use. Look at that blue. Look at that blue. Look at it. This is royalty. Everything royalty. This is the reason why it came out as part of holiday, because jewel tones are celebrated during the holiday seasons. You get it a lot in palettes, in products, and stuff like that. But honestly, you can wear this palette whenever you want. Special occasion, every day, you can create so many beautiful looks using these colors. These are amazing. I love the Beauty Bay shadows, especially the ones that come in this shape of palette. I feel like they're exceptionally done. The color stories are very gorgeous, and you always get a good balance of matte and shimmer shadows. This palette ranked as one of my top holiday eyeshadow palettes that I would recommend. You can wear this for holiday season all through, but honestly think any of these eyeshadow palettes, to be honest, you can wear them whenever, but because of the jewel tone shadows, I kind of associate them with the holiday time. I also ranked this particular eyeshadow palette as one that I would wear during the holiday season. So this is another honorable mention. And this is the Juvia's Place Wahala 2 palette. I love this palette, and I think it works really well. Just like the Beauty Bay palette, you get beautiful peach tones, greens, blues, silver. The only reason why this one doesn't rank as part of the eyeshadow palettes that I'm recommending for 2021 is because you don't really have neutral shadows, and I appreciate it. If you're not really a color person, this isn't going to appeal to you. And I'm trying to think of palettes that would appeal to you. even if you just want, even if there are only 3 neutral eyeshadows in the whole palette, at least you can use it for that look. And you don't really get that with this one. This one is a full color powerhouse, but it definitely had to be an honorable mention. I also appreciate the fact that not a lot of people love pressed glitters in their palettes, but if you do appreciate pressed glitters, this one has a few that you will love. Plus, the shimmer shadows are absolutely gorgeous. So this is an honorable mention. If you're looking for a colorful eyeshadow palette that you could use alongside the Age of Opulence, then definitely check out the Juvia's Place Wahala 2 eyeshadow palette. Okay, we only have 4 more eyeshadow palettes to go. So the 11th palette I want to talk about is a purple tone palette. I'll give you a second to guess. So this is the, oh, she held it upside down. This is the Norvina 5 eyeshadow palette, and this is the purple, like full on purple theme eyeshadow palette. Now I am a huge fan of these Norvina palettes. Personally, I love them. They work for me. I love the quality. I love the pigmentation. I especially love this one because of the brown, dark purple, neutral eyeshadow colors over there. You can wear neutral color with pops of purple. You can wear so many beautiful looks from this palette. You also have this really interesting pressed glitter that kind of looks different on camera, but in person I can see reds, I can see green, I can see purple, I can see champagne, can see so many colors in there. It is absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna swatch a few shadows that scream at me. When you swatch that one, you can see how it just hits the light. It's so beautiful. I feel like the quality of these Norvina palettes is stunning. Like, stop it. Stop it. You can't tell me this isn't an exceptionally beautiful eyeshadow palette. Like, when people say that they hate the color story or they hate the formula, I'm like, what are you looking at? Because I don't get it. The quality of this is amazing. The eyeshadow palettes are gorgeous. I feel like it's a really good balance of neutral, of matte and shimmer, and toppers and glitters. And you've also got some beautiful browns, some beautiful deeper purples that you can use to create some really gorgeous smoky looks. So this definitely had to rank because Norvina brought it with these palettes, and I'm honestly hoping that she comes out with more. Like, I really want a red eyeshadow palette. Can somebody give me a full-on red eyeshadow palette that will make me go crazy? Like, literally, Norvina, you can do it. Red eyeshadow palette, girl. Red. Alright, so the 12th eyeshadow palette I want to talk about is the Trixie Cosmetics Plant Gay eyeshadow palette. Love the packaging of this palette. Trixie Cosmetics palettes are amazing. They're phenomenal. I love the Bombshell one, and I love this one. Is it Bombshell? You know the one I'm talking about. I love that one. I have a review of that one. I have a review of this one as well. And I love this. You know, you've got a good balance of greens. Anything with greens, I'm right there. Greens, you've got some beautiful pinks, and you've also got these brown colors. If you wanted to create a neutral color, this could be in your lid, this could be your outer corner. You could use this to blend the edge of that. Bob's your uncle, you're done. Pop a little bit of color on your lower lash line and you're sorted. This is a gorgeous shimmer shadow. Gonna swatch. I do feel like the pigmentation of this palette is well done. Very beautiful pigmentation. I love the shimmers. I love the topper shades. It's just really, really pretty. Like, look at that color. That beautiful mint green. It's stunning. So this definitely had to rank because I did enjoy using this palette and I do want to use it more. I did pull it into a shop my stash and I did get some use out of it, but I'm looking forward to using it more this year because I feel like this is such an untapped color story. Like, pink and greens, you don't really associate two of them together. But you could create some really awesome looks using this palette, and I I love the packaging. I love everything about it. The quality is amazing. So definitely had to add it to the list. I haven't watched a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about their top eyeshadow palettes. Let me know if my selection is different from the ones that you've been seeing on other channels. I'm actually quite interested to hear if my taste in eyeshadow palette is different from others, because I actually haven't had time to watch those particular videos. I have some saved on my playlist, but I just haven't watched them. So definitely let me know. Anyway, my 14th eyeshadow palette, I'm cheating a little bit, but not really. And this is the Eunique Fashion Festive magazine. Honestly, this is the one that came out for the holiday, for the winter period. But anything Eunique, sign me up. When you're talking about foiled shadows, shimmer shadows, this brand knows how to do it. They know how to do it. Now, this particular palette and all the fashion magazines, they all come with 3 different eyeshadow palettes, and I'm adding all 3 to this list, but as one palette, because girl, we'll be here forever. So I do have looks using 2 of these palettes on my YouTube channel, but I do want to swatch 1 or 2 shades from the palettes just so that you can see what I'm talking about when I say, like, come to Eunique if you're looking for how to, I can't even speak. If you're looking for shimmer shadows, foiled shadows, like, they will school you on what it means to add some shimmer to your color story. So this is the warm autumn one. This one oh god, I love the look I created using this palette. Are you ready? Look at that. Look at that. That is just, and one more. Like Eunique said, do you think you know how to do fall shadows? Let me show you. Like, they literally said, let me show you. And you want to tell me that indie brands are not killing it because they don't have the exposure? Honey, they've got the eye for color, they've got the eye for quality. I don't know how they do it, but these shadows are freaking stunning. Every look I've created using the Eunique palettes always leaves me stunned. I love them, and honestly, definitely check them out. I do have videos on my YouTube channel. I swatched all of them, and I talked about the pigmentation. I talked about this brand. I talked about this brand a lot on my channel, so clearly their shadows are amazing. Definitely check them out. It'll be linked. But honey, it's over. Like, this literally could have been the only palette for 2020. As a matter of fact, this is probably, like, Eunique palettes generally is probably the top of 2021 for me, because I can't. It's, yeah. Okay, so the last palette, so palette number 15, I want to talk about is the Bperfect Carnival The Antidote palette. Woohoo! Now, this palette snuck its way into 2021 because I literally used this right now, maybe a week or 2 ago, and I've been obsessed with this palette for so many reasons. Like, this palette has it all. It's got the grungy greens that I love to use. You've got neutral browns, you've got red, orange, yellow. You can use this throughout the year. You've got springtime, summertime, autumn time. It is so good. It touches on so many color stories, so many looks you can create with it. The only pet peeve I have is that it doesn't have a black. I wish it had a black, but I'm willing to live without the black because I've got a single black shadow. I do believe that this is Stacey Marie's best color story and eyeshadow palette out of all the ones that she's released, because of how diverse it is and how you can use it throughout the year. I feel like the color story will touch on a lot more people compared to her other eyeshadow palettes. So this one definitely is a crowd pleaser in my opinion. I do have quite a shiny hand, but I will go ahead and swatch some shades that just literally leap out at me. Like, when you just look at that, did you see the pigmentation of these shadows? They're just so good. So good indeed. So these are some of the shadows that just jump at me. Like, the shimmers are absolutely gorgeous. The color story is just insanely beautiful. So this definitely squeezed this way into my list, but I'm so happy that I did pick it up, and I am definitely enjoying this and expect to see more looks using this palette in 2022 for sure. And that is it, you guys. So that's 15 eyeshadow palettes with a few honorable mentions that made it to the top of my favorites list for 2021. Definitely let me know if any of these palettes made it to your list. Let me know which eyeshadow palettes made it to your list. If I don't have them, if I should check them out, if I should pick them up, definitely sound off in the comment section. And as I said, if you're watching more videos like this, definitely let me know if my selection is different from other people. I am very intrigued to hear about it. There are some other eyeshadow palettes that I feel like people have included in their list that I didn't get a chance to use. One being the Pat McGrath Holiday Collection. I didn't get to use that because I literally just picked that up a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section. And if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and turn on your notification bell so you know when next I release a video. All of the palettes will be linked in the description box with some affiliate links. If you do want to support my channel, support my journey, and you are interested in these eyeshadow palettes, please ensure that you click on the link to shop so that I can make a little bit of commission. It's no extra cost to you. It just helps me and my channel grow so I can make more videos for you that are like this. But yeah, remember, God doesn't like ugly. Be nice to someone today, and Black Lives always matter. And I'll catch you in a future video. Thank you and bye.